The desert wind howled like a wounded beast, carrying with it the bitter scent of iron and smoke. The battlefield before the ancient fortress of Kareth Vale was a wasteland of shattered spears and fallen men. The sun hung red and swollen above, casting long shadows across the dying ground. I stood alone among the wreckage, my chest heaving, the dust clinging to the sweat on my skin. My armor was gone, torn away piece by piece during the fight. My sword lay somewhere among the corpses. All that remained was my body, bruised, bleeding but still standing. Across the field the enemy surged, a dark wave of soldiers in black steel, their banners snapping like thunder. At their head was Commander Rhaen, a brute of a man whose voice carried above the chaos. "Bring me his head," he roared. And then they came for me. 10 men, then 20. My comrades had fallen back. They thought I was lost. Even she did. Lyra, captain of the Silver Guard, and the woman whose gaze had once softened even my hardest nights. She watched from the ridge, her hand trembling on the hilt of her sword, her eyes wide with the disbelief of someone who had already mourned me once before. They circled. I could feel every heartbeat, every breath drawn through the ash. There was no sound except the shifting of boots on gravel. My body ached, but my mind was sharper than it had ever been. When the first man lunged, I didn't think, I moved. My hand caught his wrist mid-strike, twisting until I heard the wet snap of bone. His scream was swallowed by the wind. I drove my elbow into his throat, grabbed his blade, and hurled it into the next man's chest. 2 down. The rest hesitated, but only for a breath. Then they attacked all at once. I ducked under one swing, drove my knee into another's gut, then spun and caught a third man by his collar, using his body as a shield against a spear thrust. Blood sprayed across my bare shoulder. My vision narrowed until the world was nothing but movement, instinct, and the rhythm of survival. From the ridge, Lyra watched, frozen. She'd seen me fight before, but never like this. Never without the calm precision of a soldier. Never without a blade. This was something primal. The kind of fighting that comes when a man has nothing left but will. Her lips parted as she whispered my name. Kale. Every motion was a story of pain and defiance. I could feel her eyes on me, like a tether to the world I was protecting. When one of the soldiers slashed across my back, I barely flinched. I grabbed his arm, slammed my head into his face, and heard the crunch of his nose breaking. Blood poured down and he fell. Another came with a spear. I caught the shaft, broke it over my knee, and drove the jagged end into his chest. The ground beneath my feet turned slick with dust and blood. My hands were raw and trembling, but I did not stop. Then came Commander Rhaen himself. He stepped through the line of his fallen men, his armor gleaming black, his sword already drawn. "Enough of this madness," he said, his voice thick with contempt. "You think your fists can defy steel?" I didn't answer. I just looked at him, the man who had burned our villages, taken our lands, and left nothing but ruin. He charged. His first swing came low, aimed to gut me. I pivoted aside, the blade grazing my ribs. The second came high. I ducked, and my hand shot out to grab his wrist. He was strong, stronger than I'd expected, but rage lent me something beyond strength. We struggled in silence, his armor scraping against my bare chest. He headbutted me once, twice, but I didn't let go. I drove my knee into his side, felt the air leave his lungs, then twisted his sword hand until the metal fell from his grip. Rhaen's eyes widened. With a roar that tore from somewhere deep inside, I slammed him to the ground. My fists came down, once, twice, over and over. The sound was like thunder against stone. He tried to rise, but I pinned him there, striking until his breath rattled out and his body went limp. When it was over, I stood over his corpse, chest rising and falling like the tide. Around me, his soldiers hesitated, then dropped their weapons. The silence that followed was deeper than the grave. Lyra descended the ridge slowly, her boots crunching through the gravel, her face pale beneath the sunlight. I turned to her, my body trembling with exhaustion. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The battlefield stretched around us like the aftermath of a storm, broken but quiet. When she finally reached me, her eyes were glassy with tears. She lifted a hand to touch my cheek, her fingers brushing the blood and dirt that streaked my face. "You fought with nothing," she whispered. "No armor, no weapon, just you." I tried to smile, but my lips barely moved. "Sometimes that's all we have left." She looked at me for a long moment, as if trying to memorize the man standing before her. The man she'd once sworn she'd never love because war left no survivors in the heart. But there, in the silence of victory, something changed. She pressed her forehead against mine, her voice breaking. "You weren't supposed to survive this." "Neither were any of them," I said softly. "But someone had to." Later, as the sun began to sink and the sky burned gold, we buried the dead. The field that had once reeked of blood slowly grew still, touched by the wind that carried away the last whispers of battle. The soldiers who remained, our soldiers, looked to me with a kind of quiet reverence I didn't understand. I wasn't their hero. I was just a man who refused to fall. Lyra walked beside me, silent but close enough that I could feel her presence like warmth in the cold dusk. When we reached the edge of the camp, she stopped and turned to me. "You know they'll call you a legend after this," she said, half smiling. I shook my head. "Legends wear armor. I'm just a man who ran out of it." Her smile faded into something gentler, something real. "No," she said. "You're the man who taught them that flesh and spirit can be stronger than steel." And as night fell, I looked once more over the battlefield, the place where death had come to claim me but found defiance instead. For the first time in years, I felt the weight of peace. No armor, no weapon, just me. And somehow that had been enough.